The 119th Congress officially begins today. Republicans controlling both the House and the Senate for the first time in 5 years. The first order of business, voting on a speaker so lawmakers can be sworn in. However, Politico's reporting current House Speaker Mike Johnson does not have the votes to keep his job. Johnson can only afford to lose one Republican vote. Kentucky Congressman Thomas Massey has doubled down on his no. Nonetheless, Johnson telling Larry Kudlow he remains positive.
I think it's going to be okay, Larry. We'll have maybe one no vote, I think. I think we get it done on the first round. Look, I'm a proven fighter. I'm a MAGA conservative, but I'm also someone who can get everyone in that broad array that we have in the House GOP to work together. And that's what's necessary in the days ahead.
Johnson met with members of the House Freedom Caucus Thursday who are reportedly seeking promises on spending cuts and assurances that all members will be involved in high-stakes negotiations. Still, some lawmakers not ready to commit.
Are you undecided right now?
I will make a decision tomorrow. But we had a good meeting with the speaker, discuss some things. I think in a lot of things we agree.
I'm undecided.
What do you need to hear still?
We're talking about that now.
Can you be a little more specific?
No, I'm just going to tell you, it's the normal things y'all report on. Fiscal discipline, securing the border, pass reconciliation, pass Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, pass the 19 other appropriation bills on time.
Joining me now is Oklahoma Congressman Kevin Hern. He is the House Republican Policy Committee Chairman and a member of the House Ways and Means Committee. Congressman, so that you heard from Congresswoman Sparks, you heard from Congressman Norman in that clip that we just played. How does today play out?
Well, first of all, I'm going to be voting for the Speaker. He's a good friend. He's been, in a tough situation. If you think about the three legislative stools of Congress, of the House, the Senate, and the White House, we've only been in the minority. I think everybody thinks we're in the majority, but we're in the minority of that process. And I think he's done a yeoman's amount of work this past 12 months, 14 months in his role to get that done. But when you look at the president's agenda, President Trump was sent to Washington, D.C., by a mandate of the American people. He won the Electoral College. He won the popular vote, put all doubts aside. And now we need to exercise what we need to do in the legislative process to get that job done. And we can't do that without a speaker. I think we'll get it done today. It's not going to be pretty, as you've probably heard some of the commentary that you put forward. But these are all great friends of mine. They're expressing their concerns, as we all have. And I think we'll get the speaker picked today. I
think the question mark is how many rounds. I mean, we've seen this not just with Johnson's confirmation, but look at what happened with Kevin McCarthy when he barely hung on to his speakership. He ended up, vacating. But I mean, that's the question mark, is how much this is going to play out on our televisions today, to be clear.
Well, certainly you all are going to report on it, as everyone will. And I was obviously here for the 15 rounds with Speaker McCarthy. I was here in September, October of last year, well, now of 2023, to see what happened there. I think we learned a lot from that. Here's the fact. The fact is there are no perfect leaders. There's only been one person that's ever walked the face of the earth that was perfect. Speaker Johnson will tell you that it's not him. And when you can only lose one or two votes, many times you can't lose any votes. That's called perfection. And 99% of the Republican conference want Speaker Johnson to be our next speaker. And I believe he will get there. Whether it's one round or two, what we all know is that on Monday, January 6th, we need to certify the election of President Trump so we can get on with his agenda.
Understood, because the first 100 days are fastly coming soon. So we need to get there. And of course, Trump wants to get that 100 days underway. Let me ask you about this. So once a new speaker is elected, lawmakers will vote on changing the House rules to make it more difficult to remove a speaker. This new rule would require 9 lawmakers to introduce a motion to vacate instead of the current rule of just 1. Former Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz used this process, of course, as we know, to oust former Speaker McCarthy. That was October of 2023. It also states a member and their co-sponsors must be in the majority party. Okay, so this means only Republicans, as of now, can introduce a vacate motion over the next 2 years. But and of course, Democrats have already come out and publicly said that they are opposed to this rule. They say that you're changing it to, obviously to the benefit of Republicans. But what happens when you get a shift in control in Congress if this rule goes forward? Isn't that a concern that this could hurt Republicans down the line?
Well, I think you have to know the history before Speaker Pelosi took office again, her second run as Speaker in 2019. The rule before that for a long time was the vote of 1. It was never a concern, I guess, unless you ask, John Boehner and a couple others. But you know, if there's somebody who has that much dissatisfaction with the Speaker, there are a broad number of people that have a dissatisfaction, as we saw both in John Boehner's race, and then, yes, people were pushing on Paul Ryan to leave as well. Speaker Pelosi insulated herself from ever having to be accountable to anybody other than a huge majority of the Democrat conference. What is happening now is we went through a rules package conversation just a few weeks ago now. It was passed by our conference, and so I'm for anything that's going to move our conference forward. I know the Speaker is as well, and he's not afraid of that. He wants to do his job. He now has the benefit of a President Trump that's supporting him, a Republican Senate over there with Senator Thune now leading the Senate. And it's an opportunity for the American people to see that we can actually legislate and move forward with the agenda of President Trump. And we're given the gift of opportunity right now, but the gift of time is we know that history tells us that in 2 years, the party that's in the majority switches back to the minority. So with that definitive amount of time, we need to get some things done. We're only going to do that when we pick our Speaker today.
Okay, so it sounds like you're confident that this rule change is going to go, that this is going to happen. Real quick before you go, I want to follow up on the news that we've been following, the breaking news. So the FBI yesterday did brief members of House Homeland Security and other key lawmakers, Louisiana lawmakers in particular yesterday. This was a bicameral briefing on the New Orleans terror attack. The FBI reportedly telling members the suspect was not on the terror watch list part of the attack. And separately, the FBI telling the New York Post there was nothing on their radar either, Congressman. Missouri Senator Josh Hawley wants FBI Director Chris Wray to testify on this. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, first of all, our hearts and prayers go out with the people that were both killed and injured in New Orleans this past couple of days. And then also what happened in Las Vegas. They're tragedies. They're an example in the free world when you have people wanting to harm us. Both of these had ISIS connections, as it appears, ISIS-K more specifically, that's reconstituting itself from Afghanistan, and that's a real problem. We need to get President Trump in office. We need to get Kash Patel in the FBI office. We need to get Kristi Noem to DHS so we can see what's going on across the nation and across the world. These terrorist networks that are coming in across the southern border are going to be devastating if we're not getting a hold of this very quickly.
Okay. Emily Dominant just got a question for you, sir.
Congressman, I just want to take it back to the Hill. Do you think that the tight vote margins going into the Speaker race are a bad sign for moving President Trump's agenda? And what is your priority for the first 100 days?
No, I don't think it's a bad sign. I think the president knows this. He saw it before when he was here. He's working with seasoned House veterans, Senate veterans that are advising him as well. I think that's important for him to see. This process will play out, but it will be done by Monday. I'm a firm believer of that. The agenda for us on the policy committee is to codify President Trump's policies so that we don't have this whiplash on the American economy every time there's a presidential change. Securing the southern border, having energy dominance around the world. Getting this inflation under control that's been persistent now for 4 years, some 20% plus, getting the tax policy codified. I sit on Ways and Means and work on the tax subcommittee, so, codifying the Trump tax policies from 2017, his signature work from his first term in the office. So we've got a lot of work to do, and this all happens in the first 100 days if we get our Speaker picked today and get on certifying the election on January.
We're going to be watching. Congressman Hern. Congressman, thank you very much for being here. We've got a lot more coming up this morning. Your morning forecast, what you need to know ahead of today's weather outlook before you go out the door. Plus, President Biden is trying to throw up roadblocks ahead of President Trump's second term before leaving office. As